Morning everyone, and welcome back to the Runpreneur vlog, where we discuss all things entrepreneurship and running. It's a little bit warmer today, feels like temperature's 5 degrees, so it's been the warmest it's been for a while, so no winter running gear today. We'll kind of hybrid in between, which is always nice. And it's Thursday Tales today, where we talk about past experiences in business, and today's topic is a biggie. It's my biggest mistake in business. So as always, if you like this episode, please give it a like and a subscribe, and let's get started. So, my biggest mistake in business, it revolves around a block of flats, which was a development we undertook, I think back in 2017, it might have even been earlier than that. And it was me and my now ex-business partner, and this is the predominant reason for the separation, that I'd been in business with him for 10 years. So I'm going to do 2 episodes on this, so one this week and one next week. I'm going to kind of keep it a little high level today, go through what's happened, kind of how it happened, and then ultimately next episode, which will be next Thursday, I'll talk about kind of the learning outcomes of what I've taken from it, because we're still not out of the woods on this one yet, and it's been a horrendous few years dealing with it. So, cut a long story short, myself and my ex-business partner, you know, we'd done a lot of HMOs, built a big portfolio, kind of done a lot, so we were into service accommodation. The next logical step for us on the property progression ladder was commercial to residential conversions, or a development of some kind. And so as always, we didn't go into this blind. We got educated, and the guy who mentored me, Rob Moore, his education business, Progressive Property, which I got a lot of my foundation knowledge from, you know, we went and had a training course there for commercial to residential conversions. A really good training course, lots of really good value. And so we had a kind of a baseline amount of education, and then lo and behold, we're kind of going about our daily lives, and my ex-business partner comes to me and says, "It's a really good development opportunity here. We need to move on this." And I was like, a bit too soon, a bit too early. We're not kind of in the flow yet with this. We're still learning it. But he was adamant this was a great deal, and to be honest, it was a great deal. I mean, it was a disused nightclub that was part converted to a block of flats. And when I say part converted, is the owner was a builder. He'd had a fall on site. He was an elderly chap. He'd lost all confidence to do the works himself, so he just wanted out. So we had a really good ability to buy it. Now, at the time, we weren't super liquid, because all of our funds we kept recycling the money out of our portfolio and using it to buy more HMOs. That was the model back then. So we didn't have a huge tranche of cash to kind of invest in this, and it was a 600 grand purchase. Okay, and the development costs were going to be somewhere in the region of about 150 grand, I think we worked out. So it wasn't a massive development by any stretch, but we didn't have the money to put in as enough money to put in as a deposit, and we certainly didn't have enough to do the development works. So we needed some outside investment. Now, at the time, we were working with a rent guarantee company on the portfolio, just as we were looking at kind of how we could kind of, you know, securely guarantee our rental income for a small kind of insurance premium, rather than the rigmarole of having to kind of deal with fluctuations of cash flow, which was pretty notorious in our portfolio, especially dealing in the kind of social housing sector. So, and these guys we built a relationship with over the past 6 or so months, and the rent guarantee scheme was working really nicely. It was basically, it cost us 3% plus VAT of our rent roll to guarantee it and cover all legal costs. Obviously there was an approval process, and it was just a no-brainer. So obviously we went with that, and the end result was 6 to 9 months worth of amazingly high rent roll with no kind of kind of significant cash flow issues, which was amazing. But as always, it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. They were losing a shed load of money on it. So after 9 months it failed. But we'll go on to that on another topic another day. But we got in quite good relationship with these guys during that time. And they were like looking at this development as well, thinking, yeah, we want to get involved in this. So they were going to plug the funds that we didn't have. And we had 75 grand to put into it. So we put 75 grand into it. And, we exchanged contracts. And it was all done through kind of standard conveyancing. There was nothing. And they were going to put in the additional, I think it was 150k between 4 of them, to raise the funds what we needed to get that deal over the line. And so we'd already, the first naivety thing was we exchanged contracts with just our money to give the vendor commitment, because he was getting agitated as the sale was taking longer to kind of go through. Bear in mind, my ex-business partner had a really good relationship with the vendor, because it was, even though it was through an agent who also had a lot of direct to vendor communication. And then at the 11th hour, the rent guarantee company pulled out of the deal. Basically what it transpired was that they were younger guys, but the purse string holder was the father, and he didn't want to put the exposure of a development, which is, however you slice and dice it, it's high risk stuff, it's big money, and if it goes wrong, it can go horribly wrong, which I can kind of verify. So they pulled out after exchange, which meant we couldn't complete, and the vendor could have walked away with our money, basically. So we stood to lost 75k. So we then had to scrape around and raise initial finance at notoriously high interest to cover the outstanding kind of deposit funds needed to complete. So we did that. So we weren't just paying interest on the loan that we were about to undertake to do the works. We had interest on the development finance and interest on the additional finance we needed to raise to cover the deposit funds. And basically, the vendor then, because of the kind of messing around, he was well within his rights to walk away and take the 75k. But he said, well, look, if you increase the purchase price to 650, we'll still do the deal. And it all got legal. So we ended up losing 50 grand on the purchase price there and then, which was a nightmare. So we had no choice, because otherwise it would lose 75 grand and get nothing back. So we did that. We then get into the development, and bear in mind we've been educated on this now, so we know how to do the due diligence, we know how to do the kind of management, all this side of things, the project management of a development. We had the education. We'd never had the experience of doing it, but we had the education. And I said categorically to my ex-business partner that, this block of flats was up in the northwest. I lived in the southeast, 4-hour distance. I couldn't be operationally involved in it. So he was based central Manchester at the time, and he said, look, I've got this, I'll run it. And we've both been educated, so trusted my business partner implicitly. So I said, okay, you run with it and just keep me posted, and I'll help wherever I can, and I'll run the rest of the business. So that's what kind of happened. Then throughout the process, my ex-business partner met a new partner. Things started changing a little bit. He was more we were always earning quite well from the business, but he was almost wanting to earn extra well too quickly without us being at that level to take that level of income. So that's kind of where it was. And I did notice this when his kind of life changed and he met a new partner that he's now married to and got kids with. And I didn't think nothing of it, because he was always somebody who wasn't the best with money. He'd spend what he earns all the time, whereas I've always been someone who puts it away, invests it, puts it into my children's legacy, etc. He didn't have kids, so it's not, it's his bag. He just had a good life and enjoyed it. And who was I to kind of argue with him? But I did notice that. And then lo and behold, this development, which should have taken maybe 3 to 4 months max to complete, we went through one contractor, another contractor, and 18 months to 2 years later, the development just about finishes. And bear in mind, the end value was always going to be around the 1.15 million to 1.2 gross development value. So there was significant margin in this. But when you're looking at bridging finance at 1.5% a month, and we're expecting to pay it for 3 to 4, but we'd forecasted worst case 6, and then we're still in there 24 months later, the compounding effect of that interest just wipes out any profit, and before you know it, we're sitting at a massive, great big loan balance with a pretty aggressive lender, because we had no experience. We couldn't go and get you nice relationships with development lenders who will work with you on a more attractive basis. And yeah, I mean, it just squeezed every piece of equity out and put it even into kind of not negative equity, because we then refinanced eventually out of the development. But meanwhile, it was still kind of, it wasn't even really finished. There was still snagging and stuff to be done, and we somehow managed to get it refinanced. We got it valued up on completion at 1.15 million, which was amazing. Now, we weren't able to pull anything out, but we were able to get rid of the super aggressive lender, and this was a more hybrid finance product. And what then happened is that we were then looking to run it as service accommodation, because that was the kind of new strategy at the time. And bearing in mind it was based in the northwest, in Lytham St Anne's. It wasn't too far away from Blackpool, so it was a very seasonal holiday, and we weren't in COVID then, so we made quite good revenue over the course of a year from running it as service accommodation. But the term with the new lender, which was a hybrid product, was I think it was an 18 month or 2 year term, and we were always then looking to refinance it based on the revenue it generated onto a more termed finance facility. Okay, so that was the plan. Later, we find out that I'm getting all sorts of chasing from different contractors, saying, where's my money? And I was like, well, Stuart should have paid you, isn't he? No, he hasn't paid me. And that's when the first kind of thing started going a little bit, well, what's going on here? And there was a lot of lies and deceit that was then showed in evidence. And I thought, you know what, we can't do this. The trust is gone here. What's kind of happened? And then he then disappeared and kind of moved up to Scotland and left me with this building that we were both PGs for, but he knew that I'd be very protective of my position and credit, and the fact that I was more searchable than he was in relation to the companies, because he'd moved. So I then ended up getting tranche and tranche of contractor chasing me up for payments for serious money, thousands and thousands of pounds worth of work that wasn't done. And I'm looking at the development funds for this development, they're thinking they've all gone out to these contractors. What's happened? And what ultimately happened was money was getting skimmed by paying it out to contractors, dodgy contractors, who were in cahoots with my ex-business partner, and they were splitting the funds and just getting as little done as possible. That's why the development dragged on for 24 months rather than 4 to 6 months. And I was so far away, I'm getting information fed back to me. I'm believing none the wiser. This is somebody I've worked with for 10 years, trusted them implicitly, knew their family, so I would never have ever expected something like this to happen. But lo and behold, is that everything was done to a really shoddy standard, because the ex-business partner was motivated to bring in someone who was so cheap but couldn't do the work. So hence there was lots of maintenance-based issues that I then inherited, and there were loads of contractors that had done work that hadn't been paid, and then I had to pay them out of the kind of the existing business that was operating and my own personal funds, which was horrendous. The stress and the anxiety you get being chased for money relentlessly. But people, you've got no idea how much they're owed. You've got no evidence, and certain tradespeople can be, not anybody in that regard. Some people are more aggressive in their chasing mechanisms than others, and I've always been one to just pay what's owed, even if you can't afford it there and then. You set up some form of plan to kind of explain the situation and work with your creditors, and that's how I've always operated. And there was many that I had to set up on payment plans, many that were cooperative, others that weren't so cooperative, and to maintain kind of credit worthiness, we had to then take additional finance to pay off invoices that should have been paid through the development finance that was always raised for the building. So not only have you got a property now that's kind of redemption figure is getting close to the level of how much the actual building's worth, you've also got a huge amount of debt that's attached to it that should have been paid through money that you thought was used for that purpose that hasn't been. So that took a long time. There's still a kind of, we're talking 2 or 3 years later now, and I think we've pretty much, I think maybe 1 or 2 we're still working with just to clear it. So that shows them the kind of measure of how much debt was attached to that. And it had all gone to my ex-business partner. He'd refurbished his city centre flat in Manchester, moved out with his new partner, and they got married, and he was running his city centre flat as service accommodation. And it was only then when I started looking into it that I found this flat that was fairly run down when I used to go up and stay with him. It was an absolute show home. And then the contractor, once I paid him, told me that he was paid 30 grand to do that from the funds that should have been paid out from the development. So lo and behold, we then kind of come out of that period. No money's been made because it's all gone towards paying debt. We're then coming to the end of the term, and we're needing, our eyes have been taken off the ball because dealing with all the crap that's kind of associated with the building. We then need to refinance the new lender out, and we go to get refinanced, and the market's dropped, and the valuations we were getting were just ridiculously low. I mean, we're talking about a £1.15 million asset. We owned the freehold as well, so there's probably another 50 to 80 grams worth of value in that. And we were getting valuations down at 650, 700,000, and it was just, we can't refinance the existing lender. And we were trying to work with them and got extensions for a huge amount of time. And then ultimately, the lender just said enough's enough, and they were threatening to take control of the building. And the only way I then managed to kind of get out of this was put up my personal portfolio as security as a way to say, look, we'll refinance this out, and you've got the security of the portfolio there to show that the equity is there to cover the loan, but the loan's still going up in value. So we're at a stage now where we're still in negotiations with this lender, and they've been incredibly patient and supportive of the situation, because they probably get every cock and bull story under the sun when you get into these developments gone wrong scenarios. And lo and behold, we're at the stage now where we're refinancing a block of flats at a valuation of 575 grand, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm refinancing a chunk of the portfolio to pull out the equity to clear it off. Now, I'm not hugely concerned, pure and simply because I know that asset is worth that level, and we've also just signed a 10-year government-backed lease on the building now, whereby the rent on that building, on the block of flats, is guaranteed for the next 10 years. So it's all management, no voids, no nothing. It's which is amazing. But ultimately, it's just, it almost wiped me out completely. If I didn't have a significant portfolio, that would have bankrupted me easily and more, and I'd probably lost absolutely everything. Now I'm still part way through this process, so the refinance at this lower end is going through at the moment, and we're in the process of pulling funds for the rest of the portfolio to clear the existing lender. We're also trying to negotiate a debt settlement figure, because they've obviously been applying crazy interest through COVID and stuff, which isn't really ethical. So we're going to be looking at negotiating that, but they're not even prepared to negotiate on that until a significant proportion of the redemption figure has been paid back. So we've got the refinance going through at the moment, which we're hoping to complete any day. I mean, all sorts of stuff has gone wrong with the refinance as well, as I've documented in this journey. But we are relatively close to getting the block of flats refinanced and a big chunk of funds across to the existing lender. And then it's the case of pulling it from the existing portfolio to raise the balance to a level where we can then have a sit around the table discussion with them. So it's still a long way to go. But I'm not overly fussed, because I don't believe the valuations are true and accurate. You cannot have Rick's surveyors, one value it at 1.15 million and somebody else value it at 575,000. And we've had 3 or 4 valuations in between where we've been trying different refinancing options at varying levels, from kind of 900, 850, I think 650, 600. So it's been, but I know with the 10-year government-backed lease as well, the strength of that puts the value on the property as well. So the aim will be to refinance it again, perhaps in 12 months down the line, where we've got accounts with the income that's coming in for it, and it will be financed on a more commercial basis against revenue, where we should be able to pull out significantly more. So I know it's worth more than it is. So when I'm refinancing equity out of the portfolio to pay it down, the way I look at it, I'm just moving the equity about, because whereas the equity is going to be significantly more in the block of flats because of the lower valuations. So that's the high and low of the journey. We're still not out of it yet, and this is I think it's going out for 4 years now. So it's been my biggest mistake in business, and if I looked at it, should never have got into that development. I knew we weren't ready, and it had such high exposure. I should never have trusted the management of that to somebody else, no matter how much I trusted that person. When you're exposed to that level, you have to ask yourself, A, are you prepared to be exposed to that level? What's the worst case? Fortunately, well, hopefully the worst case is that I'm able to kind of broker a solution here to kind of get back on my own 2 feet and actually flourish. Once I get this lender out, we'll be in a really good position to kind of keep continuing growing. And I don't look at it as loss, because I know that it will recover over the course of time. It's just the illiquidity of needing big chunks of money and relying on valuers that have almost killed me. And not only that, a business partner that you implicitly trusted like a brother to fleece you like he did is heartbreaking. It really is, and you never expect it. So I'll go through the learning outcomes of this on the next episode. That's the high level journey of what's happened, and it honestly has contributed to being being the kind of worst few years of my life in business. And as a result, I used to be quite open to risk. I'm now far more risk averse because you get knocked by these things, and as a result my focus is now on lower risk time investment opportunities, and I'll just continue to run the property business, but I'll only grow that through government backed guaranteed leases, where I don't have to worry about the ups and downs of the cash flow side of things, because I see the risk as being lower. So it does change you significantly, and I didn't have the vlog or this kind of release mechanism, so the stress, the kind of overwhelm and anxiety I was experiencing through these years were just, sometimes you just want to go into the corner of a dark room and just cry. I mean, it's that bad at times, but we're still going, we're still alive and kicking, and we're still progressing, which is always a good side. But that's pretty much it for me today. So if you've got any questions on this stuff, drop me a comment, and I'll respond as truly as I can. And if it's a bigger question, I'll do a separate vlog episode and tag you in. If it is irrelevant to you, it's no problem. Just unfollow me and it will stop cluttering out your social feeds. But you don't have to unfriend me. Just unfollow me, and that will stop that. And then I'll obviously check out my links in my bio as well, where I'm starting to host some free resources as well that you might find useful with the vlog. So all that's left to say is that the Runpreneur vlog, so I'm dribbling a little bit, quite wind chill out today. All that's left to say is that the Runpreneur vlog was set up to help entrepreneurs and business owners overcome the emotions of stress, overwhelm and anxiety by using exercise, or in my case running, as a release valve to relieve those daily, weekly pressures in the form of stress, to keep control of them, keep clarity and focus, and be able to move on. Because if you don't have that release mechanism, the stress is built up like pressure in a pipe, and as that pressure builds and builds and builds in the form of stress, it turns into kind of overwhelm, and then it can evolve into anxiety. And I've been there, as I've just explained, and I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. Now, there's no coincidence that since I've been doing this running vlogging challenge, which is my release mechanism, that I've made more progress in the last 8 months than I have in the previous 4 years. So I'm pretty passionate about helping other people with this stuff. So my pledge to you is that if you are one of these people going through these issues, then just reach out, drop me a message. There's no catch here, I'm not selling you anything. We'll just jump on a call, and I'll try and give you some tips and advice for stuff that I've implemented into my life that's made a huge difference to me, and hopefully you can do the same. Now, many have already done this, and we've made some big positive improvements in people's lives. So I always said that if this vlog just helps one entrepreneur or saves one business, it's been 1,000,000% worthwhile. So that's all I've got to say today. As always, if you like this episode, give it a like, a comment, and a subscribe. If you want to see more similar content, check out the playlist link on my YouTube channel. And all that's left to say is stay positive, stay happy. It's not always easy, but try, and I'll see you tomorrow.